Yo guys, and welcome back for another Blue Protocol Star Resonance video. So if you didn't know, the end game is finally here. That does mean that we have access to higher level mastery modes of our dungeons and then also nightmare mode raids, which means we now have access to level 80 gear. Hopefully this will serve as a guide for what to do kind of after a soft reset and also what new activities and content we have access to now. So let's talk about it. Okay, so first things first, you'll actually be able to find some level 80 gear if you talk to your Pioneer vendor and you had something that you hadn't collected yet from a previous week. It should be rolled over here and you should see we have level 80 gear that we can now pick here as well. So there's a bunch of different options for us as well as modules and stuff that we can get. Make sure you pick them up, and then also our level 80 Reforge stones, very important. Also, don't forget that the store has actually been updated as well. So if you go and look at your colorful store and then your honor coin store, you'll see that you'll have again those level 80 Reforge stones and even some new items down here. So this void alloy shards look again similar to our runic alloy shards, but this is going to be for your level 80 gear instead of your level 60 gear, and these pure throne golds are going to be for your weapon as well. So make sure you're picking all three of these up. They're going to be very important to your progression, as well as everything else in this store ideally as well. Now if you come over here to our void relic exchange person Cassie, you'll actually see that you have the ability to trade in for 80 of these shards, and you can do this right away. This allows you to craft one of your level 80 tier pieces or your set pieces immediately without doing anything else, without doing any more raids, etc. if you had enough of these runic alloy shards. Now this character doesn't. This happens to be one of the characters that's a little more neglected for me, but you should be able to, if you haven't missed out on any, to actually craft a full piece just from getting these 80 right here. Now if you're like some of my alts, you might actually have missed some things in the recent weeks, maybe because you're playing other games, maybe you're playing Ion 2 or Where Winds Meet or whatever. So make sure you double check over here in the seasonal area, the reclaim tab over there in the bottom left, and that will bring you up to this menu here. You get these tokens by doing a bunch of different stuff, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, but basically anytime that you would normally get other rewards, you usually get these too. So unstable spaces, even just spending your life energy will give you more of these tokens, and you can use them to purchase things you might have missed. For example, the different raid boss loots that I have missed because I haven't been min-maxing my alternate characters as much. So this is a good opportunity for me to get all that loot and also get me more of the shards and things that I desperately need. Things like these extra runic alloy shards that will allow me to trade for more of the void ones to make my level 80 gear. And as you can see, actually buying those from the reclaim shop made it so I could buy the full 80 and be able to craft a piece of raid gear. So we'll go ahead and buy these shards here. And then I need to purchase my right bracelet. And remember, make sure you target the pieces that you need for your class. If you don't know which pieces to look for, you can oftentimes find them if you go to Maxroll and look at your build guide for your character. You'll see stuff like this, where it recommends that I get the right bracelet and the helmet first for my DPS character. Once I have those, I can take them over to this character here and I can upgrade them. You can kind of get a feel for what the gear is going to look like when it gets higher level, but more importantly, you can get yourself the stats that you probably desperately need on a piece of gear that's going to be good. Remember too that you can actually re-roll this last line very easily. So if I go and reforge it, and let's say I had it fully maxed out, but I didn't want mastery, I want to be very clear about this. Only do what I'm about to tell you with your set gear. It only works because you can dismantle the set gear over and over again and recraft it over and over again without losing anything in return. But that does mean that you can guarantee that you're going to get the stat that you want. What I can do is I can just dismantle this piece and recraft it and start again. Your reforged stones are going to be maintained, and so you'll get them back when you dismantle, and then you simply craft them using these new void alloy shards, and so you can go again. So don't waste extra of these reforged stones, especially now that we've just hit a new tier. Right now these are going to be very valuable. While you're here, make sure you're picking up this throne gold as well. You will want this when it comes to crafting your level 90 weapon later on. It's going to be something that's going to be very important to your progression later on, so make sure you are picking it up, at least as much of it that you can. And don't forget, this can be gotten in a couple of different ways: your unstable spaces that you can do daily, as well as your honor coin shop and the raids that you do. From there, we can actually just go over to our friend Harvey here, who has not only the 40 and 60 gear exchange, but now the level 80 gear exchange. So in here, you can get more reforged stone tokens, as well as more of these sovereign alloys. Make sure you're just getting as many of these as you can each week. In particular, anything that gives you reforged stones is going to be really important, so make sure you're doing that on a weekly basis. Remember, your stones are going to be used for actually upgrading the perfection of your gear, and at higher levels you're going to be getting a lot more stats, as well as raising your ability score pretty significantly when you're raising the perfection value of your equipment. If you guys are enjoying the video, leave a like down below, comment if you guys have a question or you guys want to talk about anything. I'm always happy to talk to you guys in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this and other content for Blue Protocol or any of the other games that we're going to be covering, like maybe Tower of Fantasy starting tonight actually, and then, you know, other games as well. So now we've kind of talked about some of the new level 80 gear that you can get. Where are you going to get the rest? And so that's kind of what we want to talk about next, is what activities came with this new patch. There's a couple of different things that we need to go over. So we did get the nightmare version of Rin, its corgi, and so don't forget to do this and work on this week. Now keep in mind, this is going to be a bit of a rougher experience for many people. The DPS check is tighter than I would have anticipated. Keep in mind, you can one tank this encounter, and that is going to be a recommendation that I have for anyone trying to get it done in this first week. You know, as the other raids open and as people get more access to their level 80 gear, which we'll talk about more in a moment, people are going to be stronger and just better prepared for this encounter. So it might take you a little bit of effort to try and get your clears this week. However, if you do, you can almost make a second piece. But notice how I say almost. So even if you do everything in the game, you're still only going to have 74 out of the 80 shards you need to make another piece. So don't feel like you're going to be falling too far behind if you miss this. People aren't going to have 2 pieces of their level 80 set gear or anything like that. That won't be until next week. And so even if you are a little bit behind, you can still probably get it next week just by doing your normal activities. But ideally, of course, to be on the cutting edge, you will want to try and clear this every single week and make sure you're getting as many of these void alloy shards as possible. So secondly, we have access to master mode 6 through 10 for our normal dungeons. So this is going to be where you can start getting your level 80 gear here at master 6, and actually it is quite puggable. Don't forget, the only reason master mode 5 was any difficult before was because there was an event going on that was buffing the difficulty for master mode 5. And I can say that even at doing master mode 10, it is quite challenging but not impossible. So it's definitely doable if you want to try and go for a score there. Should be quite the challenge and should be quite the enjoyable experience overall. This is actually going to be something that you can match make and you can get a group pretty quickly to do, but I would say overall the M6 experience is actually quite puggable. So if you did M1 through 4 before, you're probably going to be pretty familiar with this level of difficulty. Just be a little bit higher because of course your gear is going to be higher than when you did M1 through M4. But you are going to want to do this to target the pieces of gear that you need. Now, a recommendation that I have is that some classes really need their weapon, but they don't like their red weapon. So if you don't know, not every class likes their red weapon. And there are some cases like Sky Wind Knight, for example, that their weapon doesn't have a whole lot of value for them. It does because it has a lot of crit on it, but it has 2 lines that are not very optimal for them. And so many of them will probably try and go through the Dark Mist Fortress run and get their level 80 weapon. Definitely be something that I would recommend doing for classes in that case, or even if you're somebody who just can't craft their red weapon yet, either one is possible. Now, in case you are curious, we do have access to a little bit of detail about this weapon. So this is kind of what the stats look like for a weapon that you get. The level 80 weapon will have 400 and 200 of their stat, as well as the same purple lines as normal, and then 120 of their random line. And on top of that, we also know that it will give you a little bit of ability score increase. Trashcoon was kind enough to give us the information here after testing it for us. So he did get about 150 or so score, roughly a little bit more. And you can see at his final score, he went from 21,399 to 21,568. So it's kind of going to be up to you on whether or not you're happy with your red weapon. I would definitely say check to see that your red weapon has the stats that you want. And if it doesn't, chances are pretty decent that you actually might want to look into this. So for most classes, they can probably ignore this and just continue on with their red weapon, but do keep in mind too that you do actually get more main stat from this, so that's something to be considered as well. So while you are looking at the different pieces of gear that you can get, remember to be targeting pieces of gear that aren't going to be the same as what you currently use. Specifically, this is talking about your set gear. You're not going to be replacing that anytime soon. So for example, things like charms, things like earrings, stuff like that, necklaces, those are usually not ones that you're going to be using or even can use as part of your set bonus. So those are going to be good ones that you can try and target, but there's going to be other ones too, like boots maybe, or gloves. It really just depends on what your sets use. Most of my characters end up crafting like 1 or 2 bracelets and then 1 or 2 armor pieces and kind of mix and match here and there. So try and pick around and farm around the gear that you already have. You're not going to be replacing those set bonuses anytime soon because it is going to take you quite a while to be able to craft 4 of your set piece, but you can definitely fill in the pieces of gear that you have going around them and getting those perfection levels higher. Because keep in mind, you are going to be limited in how many of these stones that you can actually get. So although I was able to get this piece here to 100 perfection, typically you'll have to get a piece to like 30 perfection before it starts to be an actual increase. And that is an option for you to do. It just depends on what you want to do and how you want to spend your resources. All right, guys, well, that's kind of it. So hopefully you guys are excited about the new content and the new challenge that kind of awaits us right now. It's always fun getting it a nice soft reset for your gear and being able to progress again. I know that can be a bummer for a lot of people too, but we are finally at the final soft reset, which does mean that your gear will be lasting a little bit longer now. So if that did demotivate you, that's not an issue anymore, or less of an issue. Hopefully you guys enjoy making progress just like I do. I'm definitely looking forward to tackling more of those activities myself, trying to get those higher level M10 scores and stuff like that too. So we're going to be trying to get a perfect M10 score in this current version of the game. I want to try and go for a perfect 10 score on everything for now and then see where that kind of leaves us. So I don't know, we're doing as many alt things for the next little while, but we'll definitely be doing stuff on the alts as well. So feel free to come by if you guys want to hang out on Twitch. I'm always going to be running dungeons or raids or something. We got a lot to do, and you guys are always more than welcome to come along for the ride. If you guys need help with anything, feel free to come by too. Give the video a like down below if you guys like the video. Add a comment if you guys want to talk about anything or have a discussion or anything. Again, I'm always very happy to talk to you guys down there, or even congratulate you on hitting a high ability score. Whatever it ends up being, I'm always happy to have interactions with you guys in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more stuff like this for Blue Protocol. I am going to be making guides for the nightmare mode raids and then also for the other dungeons. I do have a guide for the goblin dungeon, and it's still relevant. It's still very, very useful and will help you get an idea on how you can clear even those harder versions of master mode. So if you do want to do that, feel free to check that out, or feel free to check out those other videos I make probably in the next week or so. I'm going to try and get the raid, the Nightmare is Corgi raid guide out today sometime, but it might be in the next day or so. It is relatively easy, but there are some key tips that I do think it will help to go over. Catch you guys in the next one.